Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. Executive actions on climate change are in focus. President Biden signing more executive orders yesterday, suspending new oil and gas leasing on federal land and pushing to end fossil fuel use by 2050. Now, the president vowed that his administration would create, quote, millions of good-paying union jobs in renewable energy without giving a specific timeline. Yesterday, Energy Secretary nominee Jennifer Granholm faced tough questions about the potential job losses. Listen.
I'm just curious how a long-term ban consistent with the president's goal of unifying our country and putting Americans back to work.
I think the president's plan of building back better, which would create more jobs in energy, clean energy, than the jobs that might be sacrificed.
Joining me now, Wyoming Senator, Senate Energy Committee member, and Senate Foreign Relations Committee member as well, and Dr. John Barrasso. Senator, good morning. Great to see you. Let's start with what transpired there yesterday. You say that this transition, the executive orders, all the changes with respect to climate change action are going to have an impact on your state and its economy. Explain that to us.
Well, thank you, Jackie. Yes, President Biden in his inaugural address talked about unity, and by the time he got to the White House, that got thrown out the window, and he picked up his pen and he drew a target on the back of American energy. And then he pulled the trigger. He killed the Keystone XL pipeline, and he's killing energy jobs all around the country by stopping additional leasing for oil, gas, coal all around America. That's maybe coming up as high as 30,000 jobs in Wyoming. What we're seeing here is the Green New Deal basically dressed up in executive orders.
And part of the action that we saw is the rejoining of the Paris Climate Accord, for example. If you look at the U.S. and its contribution, but the other players around the world who don't seem to be making any modifications, and you ask yourselves, if we're all in this together and trying to cooperate, but the other players aren't, why is it that we have to make so much drastic change here?
Well, you're absolutely right. The Democrats have gone back to the blame America first approach. The reason we want a strong energy economy in America is its jobs, it's affordable energy, and it's because of our own national security. Energy security is national security. So, and the money that comes from this, it goes for roads and bridges and schools. Even Democrats, a number of Democrats in the House from Texas, are opposed to what the president is doing with the executive orders. And they're talking about 1 million jobs being lost in our country because of this approach, this far left radical approach that the president is taking on energy.
You talk about national security, and I always wonder, it's so amazing that we saw the United States become the world's top oil producer over Russia, over Saudi Arabia. So you've got the Democrats saying, that there was Russian collusion or that there was something that was going on that was not, that was not kosher. At the same time, don't you think with respect to energy policy, they are playing right into Russia's hand?
Absolutely. Energy is called the master resource for a reason. It powers our economy, our country, our military, and it is an instrument of power on the world stage. We don't want to become more dependent on other countries. We want other countries to be dependent upon us, and it's the American energy availability that has allowed us to do that. It seems that they want to turn back the clock to the old days of an Obama approach, which is what we're seeing with the Biden administration.
I want to talk about alternative energy for a moment. There are very lofty goals to transition the industry. You have very high-paying jobs in energy right now, and you've got a lot of folks, for example, with the reversal of the Keystone pipeline, losing their jobs at this moment. Those alternative energy jobs are going to take a while to institute. It's going to take time to transition people over. And once you put that infrastructure in place, some of those jobs go away as well. So the argument could be made that this is not long-lasting change for the people who essentially were the backbone of this country in the industry.
You're absolutely right, Jackie. We need all of the energy. We need the renewables, but we also need the oil, the gas, the coal, the uranium for nuclear power. We need it all. And I know John Kerry said, well, some of these folks can make solar panels. Anybody who believes that we're going to power this country and this economy with solar panels and wind turbines, they have to believe also in the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy.
John Kerry mentioned the fact that he thinks that some people have the narrative wrong when it comes to what's happening with energy. And then also you had President Biden yesterday reiterating his proclamation, if you will, that the administration will not ban fracking. At the same time, you see some of the steps that they're taking with respect to holding off on permits for drilling of oil and gas. And you say to yourself, it looks like that's the direction that they're headed in.
Well, it is. And you saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming out and saying, look what I forced these guys to do. It's amazing how scared they are of the liberal left. Even the unions have come out against what this administration is doing because so many of these jobs are good union jobs that have been killed, specifically with the Keystone XL pipeline. American energy needs to continue to play the role in the world that we have, and I'm going to continue to fight for that as a senior member of the Senate Energy Committee. And
I brought this point up earlier, but I think it's so important because you just mentioned it. Is this President Joe Biden bowing to pressure from the extreme left that so many people said, look, folks, this is what's going to happen. He's not going to be able to toe a moderate line because he owes people things, and he's got an agenda to push here.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Jackie, and you saw Bernie Sanders just the other day said we're going to continue to push Joe Biden as far to the left as we can, and he seems to be going over the cliff of the left.
Final point I want to make, because Maine Republican Susan Collins and Virginia Democrat Tim Kaine are drafting a resolution to censure former President Trump instead of impeaching him. This move is coming after 45 GOP senators voted for the measure, claiming that an impeachment trial against the former president would be unconstitutional. Senator, would you support a censure of former President Trump?
Well, that's not what the House sent to the Senate. The House impeached the president, sent that to the Senate, and we are going to be holding a trial in the next week or two. I believe that's unconstitutional, and I'm one of the 45 Republican senators who voted to say exactly that. You cannot try a former president of the United States. You know, what we see is a partisan crusade against the former president. Even the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is not showing up for the trial. There was a rush to judgment in the House. It was a snap impeachment, and I swore an oath to the Constitution, and I believe it's unconstitutional to do this to a former president of the United States.
Senator, I also want to ask you a quick question on the vaccine rollout and the distribution. This is going to be so pivotal to getting the American economy back on track. The administration has set some goals here, and they're trying to move around. But within the states, there's so much waste, actually, and there's inefficiencies. How do you bring these two together?
Well, first, Operation Warp Speed has been a tremendous success in developing 2 vaccines, not just 1, but 2 in less than a year. 1 million people a day are now having access to the vaccine. It is an amazing story, and as more people know of others who have gotten it, they're less of a wait and see, and they want the vaccine as well. The states need to know when the vaccines are going to arrive so that the appointments can be made, people can be lined up and ready to get the vaccine, and they have to know when that works. But in terms of some reluctance that people have previously had about the vaccine, you know, I'm a doctor. We saw the same thing with the polio vaccine years and years ago. I think more and more people are going to be willing to get vaccinated. We need to now get the shots in the arm, and it looks like we will soon have a 3rd vaccine, which is just a 1 shot, not 2 shots.
We will be watching for that. So much to talk about this morning. Senator Barrasso, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.